$1,900, $860 per grand. Grand total of all that is $3,097. So it's not a huge number, but we've been reaching out to other school districts to see what they do.
What would you offer them, or just something different?
Like a ham sandwich, fruit cup, stuff I would probably be happy to have.
It's the same sides with a different entree.
Yeah,
but the entree meets the federal guidelines for nutrition.
Got it.
So I'm just bringing it. That's what our current plan is. If we get kicked off September, you will probably hear about it. So consider yourselves warned.
I'm just saying $20 is not. I just know what my son consumes.
Yeah.
That would barely hit him 2 days worth of food, and
Wow. Okay. Well, I'm open to suggestions. One time we were doing 50 in the old days.
So close to a week.
Bergen goes through $100 in about 7 to 8 days.
But is that on the standard meal?
He goes back and forth, but and before I figured out how to do, just to add to my cart, I know there's a couple days he was down to $5 or whatever. So, and a ham sandwich would work for him, but I don't know.
There's time to think it over and send us some comments if you want.
Okay.
A report on that I pieced together, I hadn't looked at before. I looked at July's going all the way back to 2016, just to look at the different fund balances. I thought you might find that interesting if you get a chance to look at it. It's amazing how the total fund balances have been fairly consistent over the years. So it made me feel kind of good.
So am I correct that we're at negative right now, negative 3297, or basically $3,300 on it?
No, cafeteria is actually a negative $144,000 at the end of July. But what I'm saying is there's that much money that would be collected if we collected everything over $20.
Okay.
And as I've said before, this was one of those things. I go back and pull the numbers for our cafeteria. It just was never an issue before COVID.
How are other school systems doing it?
Well, one school system takes a unique approach, and I don't necessarily think they can do what they think they can do. If it gets over, if it's consistently over their 20, they use $20 also. They threaten to they say that would be neglect, and they can report them to child services. I don't think they've had to do that, but having that statement in their policy has made it so they don't have to do much. And that school also does not give an alternative meal. They continue to give them the normal meal. I think that's partly
Did that keep their balance lower? Like, is that effective?
well, they've not had to mess with it very much.
The fear, the threats been put out there, so people
Yeah.
pay.
I don't really think that that's something they could do.
I wouldn't do it.
I can see why they think they can, and I'm not gonna say who it is, obviously, because we're on the screen, but I have to admit, with their clientele, it must be working.
A lot of them are doing the alternative meals as well. We're also hoping that if they qualify for other services, that they'll fill that paperwork out and get that taken care of, because it's often hard to get them to fill that paperwork out, and that will solve their problem for them. That got to be a problem getting those filled out when we went away from sending home textbook materials, and then COVID, of course, hit that. So there is an alternative to that if it is a struggle to provide money for meals, absolutely. So that would take care of it right away.
There's notification that's sent out.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's just like through email or on their portal.
I think she does emails, or she makes phone calls.
in an alternative meal, like in your case, like you're saying, if a ham sandwich won't cut it, then the student will go home and say, I had to have a ham sandwich today, and maybe that wouldn't encourage payment. I don't know.
A lot of people are running deficits in those areas now, and the programs that are out there are not effective for recouping those costs. And I know there's a corporation very close to us that was doing that, and they're running a big deficit on that because of participating in that program. There's just no program out there that recoups those meals for people.
And looking down the road, I worry that the federal support for this will be going down, not up. I don't know that, just reading tea leaves.
Of course, the cost of food continues to decline,
That was
etc.
murder last year.
We've changed providers,
Yes.
trying to get a better service as well. They're working through that, and we get audited this year in the cafeteria.
Yes. And it is quite the audit.
And with the funding that the state is headed to, school corporations aren't going to be able to absorb those kind of hits with where we're headed between here and 2028. Because those are big numbers that we're seeing.
So what's the next step? You know, you mentioned the ham sandwich, or an alternative meal. What's that next step? And then
Hopefully the balance is paid or payments are being, that's the other thing. As long as there's activity on the account as far as payments, we've always worked with people.
is there a plan to implement that? I'm sorry, you said that earlier when.
The plan was to implement this after Labor Day and notify parents next week.
Okay.
There's some debate internally about how best to do that. We're trying to work through that. Because everybody brings up legitimate concerns. I mean, just like most of the schools, no one likes doing this.
Sure.
They hate it. I mean, this is, it's just about the last thing people pay for at school.
That's true.
And if you remember, we went, was it 2 years or 1 year, where nobody charged?
Oh, COVID, yeah, because of COVID.
And that changed some mindsets, I think.
Tim, are you gonna discuss the maximum levy worksheet?
Yeah, I've got all that stuff down at the bottom of it. So anyway, as you have thoughts about this, drop us a line. Let's see. That's it. Anybody else has any questions on just this portion? I put all the budget stuff at the bottom.
Okay, we'll move on to consent. Barry?
So tonight's consent items consist of minutes from the last meeting, personnel items, and claims. We would ask that you approve those this evening.
Take a motion to approve the minutes from the July 15th meeting.
Under action items, item 5.1 is the second reading of Neola Policy Updates, Volume 37, Number 2, and we are due for a vote this time.
Yep.
But did we not vote on claims?
Did not. So I would say.
I heard him say something.
So we
I
had,
thought that was
I
it.
had a first. Did we get a second?
Yes, yes, yes.
That's for all consent items, right?
Yes, that's
Yes.
the consent agenda, yes.
My apologies.
No, I thought that went awful quick.
Well, I heard it and I thought, immediately started thinking,
Well, I just wanted to clarify because Benson, you said for the
Yeah, I did for the meeting minutes.
minutes, so, but you mean for,
I should have given consent items. Yep.
so we have first and second for the consent items. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, motion carries.
I think I just get so excited because I know how much you all enjoy the Neola policies.
I read it. This time.
So we ask that this evening you approve those. Once again, these protect us and, it's a service we contract with. So there's a lot of changes with everything that went on in the legislature.
My favorite were the two that they just lined out completely.
It's always nice to sometimes see them go away. We'd ask you to approve those.
I'll make a motion to approve the Neola new policies.
I'll second.
Here we have a first and a second. Any discussion on question multitude or updating the policies? Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And opposed? All right, motion carries.
Item 5.2 is approve the contract with Sunbelt for SLP services for 25-26. I do want to point out again that this is in-person services. These are not virtual services. I anticipate that as school corporations across the country continue to move forward, this is going to be more and more of the way we have to do services. But we feel really good about getting somebody that can come in and do it in person. Someday this may have to fall under the GCSS. Brian and I were speaking today that we may need to share with Princeton and East Gibson as well, because it's just so difficult to find these services, but this will take care of our needs this year. We'd ask your approval for that.
I'll make a motion to approve the contract with Sunbelt for SLP services for 25 and 26.
Second motion, all right. And a second? Any further discussion? Yeah. All right. All those in favor of approving the contract with Sunbelt for the speech language program here, 25-26, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Aye, motion carries.
So item 5.3 is something we've talked about in the past. The Gibson Southern High School weight room renovation with bond proceeds. We went ahead and had them look at the room, scope out the size, scope out the space, and Mr. Hart, Mr. Simmons, some of the other coaches all looked at this. They feel really good about what we're proposing. And when the cost came in, we were pleasantly surprised because we really anticipated this being maybe twice that amount, frankly. And so there's a 15-week lead time. So we felt like it was a good time to bring it forward to get this, because if you've been in our weight room, you know that it's exhausted. And this will bring it up to date. It'll give kids more room to work, really nice looking equipment. And so we can get the PO in, and we would anticipate hopefully maybe over Christmas break, the possibility of them coming in and moving that in and out. They'll take the old equipment away, put the floor in, it'll be a new rubber floor, put all our equipment in, and be ready to go for the spring.
Make a motion to approve the weight room renovation with bond proceeds.
I will second. I, just real quick before we proceed forward, I had a coach reach out, track cross country coach, Jeremy, has concerns about just the quantity of the treadmills specifically. Just, we've had two in the past, and if you get injuries or you need to run during the off season, to only have so many hours in the evenings to get those workouts in, and to only have one option as far as the treadmill goes, or just a bike, that doesn't get very many athletes a chance to work out on a daily basis. So I don't know, there may be space in there for another bike or
Yeah, this design leaves space for that. I think that was always our intent, to add another one.
okay. And
About
are they
10,000.
just, is this using, I looked through, we're not purchasing new, we're using our existing equipment, is that correct?
The treadmill was just purchased, what, a year ago?
Yeah, yeah.
The new one?
It's
Yeah.
new, the bike, and then there'll be a Vertimax in there too.
I saw that Vertimax, so.
So, yes, that's a new treadmill. So, and it was about $10,000 I
Yeah,
purchased
it
that.
was
So,
about 10 or 11 for a commercial.
I didn't realize, I guess I don't know what Vertimax is. I thought that was a different piece of
the
equipment.
Vertimax is actually separate from the treadmill. The Vertimax is for volleyball, basketball, high jump, long jump. It's to
Like
increase.
the bands and
the
stuff,
bands,
right?
Yeah,
Yeah, okay.
that
So
came in
there
pretty
is
reasonable.
potential,
Yes,
there's gonna be more. Okay.
If we find and that's one of the things, this lays a really nice foundation. If we see that there's something we need to add later, it's very easily addable and should be at a reasonable cost. So
Okay.
yeah, there's room in there with this new design.
But we're not gonna purchase it right now then.
Hadn't planned on it because we've really not seen or heard any of issues with the number of treadmills and things that we have. Nobody's brought it up that, hey, we've got lines waiting on the treadmills or anything, to be fair.
Okay. Well,
Jeremy's concerned that it could be a problem, or he already sees
Well-
that it is a problem.
I think it is a problem.
we used to have too. And
I think it's hard to send one athlete down there especially if we're outside from the track, if we're wherever, or if they can do extra practice. A lot of times your kids are going to go in pairs. You're typically one of them's not going to go in potentially by themselves. They're going to go in two. And so ideally 2 treadmills, 2 bikes would be perfect. I do say I really like the design that you guys have got here. I think that, I spent a lot of time in that weight room, and with the equipment that you're taking out and the size of these compared to what we've got, I think we're gonna have a lot of room. And so I don't see space as an issue.
Yeah, and we would do the treadmill as a separate PO. I've only found one company that will come service them locally.
I knew I had a problem.
Yeah, so we would probably just do a separate PO through that company when the time comes, because I called all around.
Yeah.
And everybody wants to sell them, but nobody wants to come on site and service them.
We had a weight company come in and look at it and to see how we could maximize those rows down there, because you can be using multiple sides of that equipment.
Right.
It's very versatile.
So the old equipment, will we sell that off?
They will remove it, and it's not worth a whole lot.
Normally, you hope to get enough to have them come in and remove it and cover all those costs to make the project, but there's not a lot of value there.
Yeah.
So we've been told.
I think your stand-on machines that are along that wall, there's not much value there. Your squat racks.
Plates have been breaking. We actually talked about buying plates about a year ago and then put it off when we started talking about what we were doing, because they're falling apart. It's a great problem to have because we're wearing it out through usage.
Those
And
are
with the
mild.
strength and conditioning class, that'll get more use through that. So as that continues to grow and become more functional, really like the looks of the colors too, and have a Titans on there.
We would probably do an in-house project of painting and stuff, trying to time all that so the whole room looks new.
A good mopping.
Yeah, looks clean. Yeah, a lot of it has all that, the base, the feet. It's so hard to go in there and clean and mop. It's almost impossible. Where this stands, we're hoping we can take care of it a lot better and clean it.
You do increase the number too. So 1, 2, 5. So there's basically 6. I'm bad with math tonight. There's 10 squat racks with benches, and now you've got 8 down there right now. So you'd be increasing your number by 2, and then again, there's still room on this bottom side of it or whatever else. I think it's a good design. I'm with Rachel that I'd like to see, and if we do the standalone, it's fine too. But as long as we acknowledge, hey, I think that's certainly a need. I think we'll be good. And they do it over Christmas, you think?
Hopefully, I mean, once we do a PO, we can get an exact timeline, but they recently completed a U of E's. Workout week.
If we can get the PO in this week, we're hoping by Christmas we have stuff ready to roll. So
We got a first and a second.
yes.
Any other discussions? All right, all those in favor of the weight room renovation, say aye.
Aye.
And opposed? All right, motion carries. Desperately needed, so that's good.
5.4 is the tennis overnight trip. They'll be going to Silver Creek. There's a time change difference. They do this yearly. Tennis pays the expenses, so we ask that you allow them to go do that again this year.
I'll make the motion to allow the tennis overnight trip to Silver Creek.
I'll second it.
First and a second. Any questions? All those in favor of tennis overnight trip? Say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, motion carries.
Item 5.5 is the football overnight. They're traveling to Rochester on August the 30th, which is Labor Day weekend, for an afternoon game. They think they're taking, I believe it's 60 students, and they're calling it a team bonding as well. So they're going to travel to that game and play at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So they asked permission to spend the night before. Boosters will take care of those costs.
Motion to approve the football overnight.
Second.
First and a second. Any discussion, question? All those in favor of approve them for fall overnight, say aye.
Aye.
And opposed? All right, motion carries. Back to you, Tim.
I just wanted to put some of this stuff in front of you and see if anybody had any questions with some of it. Just some highlights. The maximum levy for the operations fund for 2026 goes up to 4% that will be allowed by the DLGF through the budget package that was passed at the state. I expect tax credits, local credits, and the homestead credits will impact the net levy of operations by 424,000, which there's a sheet on here that gives you an idea of how much more significant that is than it has been in the past. The debt estimated property tax levy will increase, so it will be able to fully maintain the allowed balance in the fund. And by that, what I'm saying is we had gotten away to help keep the tax rate down over the years, not keeping the first payment in the balance. In other words, we make those payments in June for July, we make the payment in December for January. Well, when we make the June payment, our balances have got to come down so that if something happened right then, we couldn't make the next payment. In the past, one of the reasons we would do such a thing was, well, in the tax levies used to be behind the times, and then they got much, much better in the 2000s. But then to help keep down the cost, because so much more was shifted to the operations fund and the education fund, that is no longer, well, really just the operations funds. That's no longer state supported. Like this year, the big one is curriculum, for instance. That affects education. And if it hits education, that might mean there's less money to transfer from education to operations. So it's a three-legged stool. So what I'm looking at, it would be to raise the estimated property tax to between 4 million and 4.1 million. And this year we only raised that property tax round numbers 2.4 million. So that first year would be a significant increase to get that balance up if we would do that. And one of the reasons I recommend that, even though I know it's a big hit, is this is the first time the state has passed something where they didn't shield debt service from property tax credits. I think it was an oversight. Most people think it's an oversight. They hope it's fixed first thing when they get back to the short session. I'm not too sure it will be. There's going to be a lot going on. For instance, Standard & Poor's, we mentioned earlier, and all the rating companies are up in arms over this because, next year our debt service would be reduced by $120,000 by the $300 credit you heard so much about. Well, let's say we had a shortfall in levy, certified levy was this, but we only collected Y. We would have to come up with that $120,000 out of other funds, because we would have to make those note payments. For us, that's a big number, but for other corporations, it's a huge number. So anyway, that's what I'm moving towards. I just want to make sure you understand we're doing that. And next month, I'll bring you what I will consider to be the draft budget for all the funds. You guys can make changes if you want, and then that's what we'll advertise. And then we'll pass, as in past practice, we'll hopefully have 2 meetings in October where we'll be passing the budget and ratifying the master contract. Now, there's an impact, and I think I'd show it on the estimated debt service payment sheet that you have. Next year, the general obligation bonds would only have an impact of about $450,000. They think that's on the high side. We don't know yet. One, because we don't know our SS valuation yet. They don't know what to put it in. We don't know how the market's going to take the bonds. So they're on proceeds. And if you look at that sheet, you'll see the maximum operating balance is as of next year would be 1.4 million. And the mortgage bonds make up the most of that, because we can actually have 50% of that payment. In the past, we could always have 50%, can't anymore. And the general obligation bonds, it's a type of bond. Now they say that can only be at 15%. So again, it's conceivable to have a shortfall and not be able to make, our note payments out of the funds if we would wanted to do so. And, the education state support is really what funds education. Between that and the stream that we always transfer from education to operations, it's conceivable we may have to slow down that movement to operations. Don't know that yet, but I mean, we're looking down the road. Once this large debt falls off, if the impacts of the caps on operations, which is levy driven, are higher or lower than what we're looking for in the future from policy analytics reports that we've seen, that will be one way we'll change that the education to operations transfers. We'll have to monitor that closely and see and look at cash flow on both funds, which I do now, but it won't just be an automatic every month to basically do the same amount. Is the way I see it. We are supposedly getting, I think they said 2.4% increase in education funding for next year. That's an illusion because they're not counting the curriculum dollars that we've received in the past. They just lumped them all into the same silo and made it look like it's 2.4%. We really get to back out that textbook support to see what we really got extra, which is really about 1%, which is not a lot of, personally it'd be a lot of money, but I think it's going to range anywhere between 94,000 and 162,000. That would be, for a better term, new money in education. One thing you'll start seeing on the financial reports, we're maintaining that 102 fund, which is an internal fund that simply will be capturing the state support we received that we, using the same formula as the last payment they made to us with our ADM, that's how much money we would receive a month for curriculum. And also that way allows us to pay out of that fund 102. So we always know where we stand on curriculum dollars. From the state's point of view, if you look at a Form 9, all that rolls right into 101. They don't even know it exists. So that's just an internal tactic we're using. So I think you'll see about $27,000 a month of state support of the basic grants going into there. And then like this, today, you'll see vouchers of quite a bit of money going to Savas. Did I say that right?
Yeah.
For
the textbook adoption.
For textbook adoption.
And textbook adoption was about $230,000 last year for payday. And we're looking at math this year, so they need it.
Yeah. So that's a lot of stuff to throw at you. But I thought it might be a good opportunity if, questions, I'd be happy to help. We talked about max levy earlier.
Yeah, is there anything from Baker Tilly or anybody else that's talking about what the exclusions might be? Because there's the worksheet that you fill in. Is there any data on that? Is there any opinion on how much it could be discounted out of that?
Not here again. I think once we see the net assessed valuation is officially posted, we'll have a better idea. But I think I think these numbers are conservative. If anything, they might come down a little bit as far as a hit. But I'm not I never want to bet on that. Sure. Because the timing is just such that generally we get those numbers in August and September, but by then we have to be advertising.
Right.
So.
Thank you.
And you should, I think you should have had on the board minutes copies of those reports. We put those out there before, I believe. We can always just go back to previous board minutes or board agendas and pull any of those reports out again.
Okay.
It's kind of a nice touch, actually. Let's see. Another one I wanted you to see. Oh, budget calendar. It just gives you the dates when I think we'll be ready to do those actions. Miscellaneous revenues for next year as of the 21st of July are kind of interesting to look at. If you're me, you can see like the 25 levy, 26 levy, and then the operations levy for each one of them. And then you get down to the financial institution tax, license excise tax, civet, FIT, license excise again, commercial vehicle, and which funds those go into. We are a school corporation that did never receive no money from local income taxes, lit money. That now cannot come to school corporations, and that's another hit. It's several $1 million for some of them. One of the school systems we were talking to, they actually have negative money going into their ops. They have no money going into their ops. The only way they can fund their operations now is through referendums or general obligation bond. I guess they can do that too. And I don't mean this is not gloom and doom. It's just it'll have to be managed. They've changed, and in my opinion, I know Dr. Perry's heard people say this. They've changed this from managing to a tax rate to try to keep it, keep that within reason for patrons to tax levy. We just have to make sure whatever we tax is enough to get what we need. And frankly, everybody's tax rates are going to climb. And some of the data that you've been shown shows that. It's going to have a couple of impacts though, because as we go down the road, if we're trying to do things with general obligation bonds, we'll turn those into controlled projects. And that comes with this whole other string of restraints, which is maybe what the intent is. And I would direct you to you go to the public gateway site. You can see who's put their proposed budgets out there now. North and East have got theirs out. I would say I like waiting till they do. But
Thank you, sir.
it's kind of like when I'm talking trivia and history to my wife. Nobody's snoring though. I think it has a plus.
I've got a few things to share. This is probably a good place for it. Yes. We'll start with some good news. Last time I looked at the document, we have 427 out-of-district students, which is a significant increase from where we were just like 3 years ago. We have 84 new out-of-district students this year. We're roughly 30 students over our enrollment for last year, which is a good thing, which means we're showing some growth, which is not happening other places. Now this is going to fluctuate and change because they don't do count day till October the 1st, but we're sitting right now with what we consider some additional dollars because we have additional students this year instead of a declining enrollment, which is happening other places. So we're really pretty happy about where our enrollment is across the board, and we've been able to handle it really well. I think that we could potentially have more next year as we navigate some of these things. I do want to share that I'm sure you saw the iRead scores that were released. We had a 97% pass rate, which is the best in this area. Very, very proud of our teachers and our students. There were only 4 students who didn't make it, which means the vast majority of our students, no matter what their background is and their educational needs are, they're passing, which is a huge, huge compliment to everybody. It means they're off and running and ready to make good educational outcomes later. I will also point out that advanced placement, we had a 91% increase in students scoring 3 or better on the AP exams. Our student testing numbers was up 38%, which we're very happy about. We had an additional AP courses this year that we offered. Our students are being very successful. AP Calc continues to have students getting 5s across the board, which is an outstanding. So these kids are taking and getting credentials at their university at 3 or above. They're going to get those credits when they go to the university. So we're very happy and proud of that. The last thing I want to mention is, we're talking about SEA 1, we're talking about the new diploma, but the accountability model is coming at us. And I watched a webinar this week, so I want to share with you. this is in the process, and they're still taking comments on it, but we've seen the bones of it. And I will lead with saying that they're going to vote on this accountability model at should be the December 15th SBOE meeting, which will then they will also hold us accountable for what they voted for halfway through the year with a grade at the end of the year. I don't know when that'll come out, but just so you kind of have an idea, in this first draft, you're talking about grades for each grade level is going to have metrics attached to it. Each student is going to have a score. So they're going to base it like third grade, we're going to have iRead, we're going to have iLearn. They're going to have those scores that they'll be factored in. Attendance will be factored into every student's score, and they're right now calling it a 94% attendance rate, which would be 10-day ability to miss 10 days during the year before it impacts your score. But we don't know what will be counted against them and what won't be counted against them, because you have exempt, you have et cetera. So we don't know what that'll look like. There'll be growth factored into this. There'll be performance factored into this. As we start to look at this as it sits right now, we've been having conversations about it. I'm really happy that we moved physical education down into the 8th grade to go along with algebra, because those are metrics that they're going to look at and giving us better scores for. We're going to have to continue to look at high school classes to move down into the middle schools to give those kids opportunities to get that and help our schools out as well. It also helps out our high schools, because one of the metrics is you'll have to be on time for graduation at the end of your sophomore year, and you have to have 10 credits. Most of our students are in a good place there, but there'll be a few that need a little extra help. So if they arrive here with 2 or 3 high school credits, they're much more likely to be on time at that point in time. One of the things that they're going to do now too is in your K-8 buildings, those grade levels that are tested in social studies and science, that will now count as a factor in that score for the students. Biology ECA will now factor into the score for the students, whether they take it in 8th grade or in the high school setting. Right now, it's still in the high school setting. The PSAT will be a factor. The SAT will be an academic factor for all students. So there's just, when it was really kind of like a train barreling down a track when you hear it, because there's just a lot of metrics. And like I said, they're going to vote on this and expect us to do well the first time out of the gate. And one of the principals from Batesville High School said, we're not expecting, we're doing a lot of this stuff, but we don't expect to see really good grades the first time out of the gate, because we're not going to have time to course correct mid-year for any of this. So we're having those conversations now about things that this will change a little bit, but these are the bones that's going to be around. So we need to start factoring in as we prepare. This is what it's going to probably look like. There'll be another iteration out, I would anticipate probably October, with public comment. It'll be shut down, I would guess, in November, so they can have the final draft ready for the SBOE to vote on, because they have to vote on it and pass it by December 31st. So it's kind of like last year's what they had to vote on. So there's a new accountability model. Everybody's going to get an A to F. So you're going to see grades for 3rd grade. You're going to see grades for 4 to 8. You're going to see grades for high school. Whether that's an indication of how good we are or aren't, I'll let everybody else decide on that, because I still think we're pretty doggone good. So, but we're just going to continue to try to be the very best out there and navigate this as we go through.
So will we have to have a new software system for grading and all that? Or
No, they'll be pulling. That's where having good data in your SIS system will be imperative, because the state can pull every day your attendance data and all those things. It'll all get pulled to the state, and they'll factor it in there. And it's going to be really difficult to check some of these grades, because you've got to, you got to look at their attendance. You've got to look, did they come in here late? Have they been with us all the time? So all those things are going to be difficult to double check too. And I'm not saying they ever make a mistake, but it's quite possible.
So that will put a little more pressure on teachers to get grades that are timely. Well,
it's going to be your semester grades, your end of grades. That's always wherever I've been, that's always been an issue. But it's going to be really, Laura Nurnburn is going to be, she's already very critical to our mission, but she's going to remain very critical because of all things that have to be done. Mark Rohr and Kelly Acey, and getting all this information, the attendance clerks, making sure that the proper attendance is entered into it. WIDA scores will be important. I actually talked to the middle school principals today, and we need to make sure we reiterate with our teachers teaching science and social studies that, like, this hasn't counted in the past. We want to know that data so we can help them, but this will count now. And we really need to make sure that we're focusing on that in the classrooms. And so these are changes that the entire state's going to have to adapt to. So, but they can pull stuff all the time. And Tim and I have talked about this several times. you can see this coming where they're collecting more and more data, and they can do it on a daily basis, and that they're going to be telling us probably at some point how much each student cost us per year. I mean, it's just phenomenal, the data, and eventually, I'm hoping not this isn't the case, because every time they change software, just like they changed the ILP system this year, it doesn't go very well. But I can see the state, and there's been talk about going to one SIS system statewide, and they're never seamless transitions, as they like to say. They're nightmare transitions, to be fair. So I just want you to be aware that this accountability model is coming down the tracks at us as well, and we'll be dealing with that. And I feel good that we've got principals watching these webinars, and we're having these conversations already, trying to get out in front of it as much as possible. So we were off to a good start, though. The principals all reported they've had great starts. They're really happy with things. It's been a good start. So thank you for your leadership.
Talked about the test scores and how well we did in this area, but the state released all the information. It seemed like we did really well compared to others in the state.
We did. You're absolutely correct.
They released it by PDF. It's so hard to stack rank whenever they have everything in PDF, but I gotta believe we're really high based on just the generic data that I was looking at for the different school systems. Do you get anything where you can stack rank?
We get some Excel spreadsheets that you can kind of mess with a little bit, and we tend to look at I don't want to call it competition, because we're all trying to educate the kids of Southern Indiana, but we're looking at our surrounding schools, and if somebody does well, I congratulate them, but we're looking at that. Mr. Armstrong had already put some stuff together on surrounding area schools that we directly compete with, for lack of a better phrase. So we're looking at that all the time. I do it with the iLearn scores and send a spreadsheet to the principals on. We track the grade level scores all the way from when they start in 3rd grade, so they can see, okay, in 4th grade, how did this group do? In 5th grade, how did they do? 6th grade, are we seeing any anomalies?
It wasn't just the 97%, it was the percentage improvement that was really, really remarkable.
It is, but I will point out, and that's one thing that nobody mentioned, the students, and I think this was a good thing, it's good for kids, they had an opportunity to take it 3 times this year. So that opportunity, because some students don't do well sitting in a group of 20 students because their attention span, etc. But if they went to summer school and they're sitting with a principal or a teacher and they're just working on their own, that's a game changer for them. So I don't want to discount, but having the extra times to do it was beneficial, and not having to hold kids back is even better.
Celebrate a lot, because that's just where the rubber hits the road whenever we start seeing those things. It's
And
pretty true.
Absolutely. And next year we'll be required to, we do dyslexia screenings. We'll be doing math screening for K-2 as well next year, so we can get a better handle on where they're at in those lower grades for math. So it's a lot, but we'll do some really good stuff.
Vincent, I pulled up just one quickie and sent Dr. Berry. It looks to me like we're in the top 10% of schools, of ones that I would count. If I discount all the academies and charters that don't have the same
Public schools.
That's great. You hear 4-star, 5-star, all that, but whenever you're top 10% in the state, it resonates.
I'm really hoping that they invite every school that got a 95% or better pass rate like they have in the past, so we can take all 3 principals up there and let them be up there.
Yeah.
I think they would really enjoy that opportunity.
And they deserve it.
They deserve it. Nothing happens just by grace necessarily. It's hard work, and we've got people doing really hard and really good work. And one of the new people told me this when I sat down with them, just kind of how they're doing and see what they're seeing. They're talking about, people are really happy. They noticed how much happier teachers were, and they were working together. And to me, that was music to my ears, because that's, if you enjoy coming to work and working with people and the kids that you have, that makes all the difference in the world. So we're very blessed.
I did have a question on the wrestling. Was there any formula or math that supported hiring another coach or do anything there? Have you seen anything on that?
No, that wouldn't really support it. When you look at tennis having 25, 30 students out there, we just now got them a second coach.
Okay.
Yeah, most people are using a lot of volunteer options to do that.
Okay. Because I'm sure I'll be asked, and I didn't know any of the answers, so.
Yeah, there's, really, you know, if you're talking 30, 35 students with 2 coaches, that's pretty normal.
Okay.
And
And then
some-
they can still have volunteer coaches. They just may not be a paid position.
And the boosters, in some ways, they've paid volunteers as well in the past, so that's perfectly acceptable.
Okay. And has all that dialogue happened between?
Mr. Adams was having a conversation with them, yes.
Right. Thank you.
That was all I had, sir.
Wonderful. Any other discussion items? Motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
All right, first and second. All those in favor of adjournment, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carried.